Fontaine, and you're listening to the HomeBuyer's Hour on WCPT AM 820. And we have in the studio with us a Redfin agent who I find pretty passionate about this stuff. Not saying that the other Redfin agents aren't, but it's nice when you start reading other people's writings and you can just see how much they care about other people. Her name is Tiffeny Meyers. Tiffany, if you don't mind, give us an introduction about yourself, the company, and why you got into real estate.
My name is Tiffeny Meyers. I'm with Redfin. I specialize in the northwest side of Chicago. I've been in real estate for about 8 years, been a top agent for the past 5.
Yay.
You can find me on the socials at Tiffeny Sells Chicago, and that's Tiffany with an E. My email is tiffany.myers@redfin.com, and my phone number is 815-326-0123. And one of the reasons I entered real estate is because I'm passionate about helping people.
Excellent. Patrick, you know what to do.
Hey! Good morning, everybody. I am Patrick Loftus. I am a real estate lawyer, and I always modify lawyer with real estate because I want people to know that that's what I do. I'm not going to be in court on a domestic violence charge. Not on a charge. Defending it. Oh, jeez.
We don't want to be.
Are we going there?
We're not going there.
I'm
Those last 25 domestic violence charges all were found innocent.
We can edit this, right?
Nope.
Oh boy. Well, the public record is what it is. No, I won't be in court defending a domestic violence charge or a DUI charge. I won't be, doing anything other than real estate. Let's just leave it at that. So, if you want to find out more about me and get to know me, I ask one thing. It's there's no free lunches here. I need you to follow me on socials. All right, you pick. I don't care which one. But on Instagram, I'm at Loftus_law. Loftus is spelled L-O-F like Frank, T like Tom, U-S like Sam _law. That's on Insta. On TikTok, I'm at Loftus Law, and I spell that out. Even though it's 6 letters, you would not believe the kind of ways people try to spell that, and then call me Mr. Loftus.
Well, it's not as easy spelling as Bellefontaine, that's for sure.
I have no problem spelling yours.
There it is.
Except because French people love to put extra letters at the end of their words and not use them. You got that extraneous E that is going to confuse like Italian people, but
Just say Taney. That'll work.
Bellefontaine, yeah.
That's it.
That's racist.
And then my favorite nerd. We're going to go every different avenue that we can. My favorite nerd's online. And Joey, if you don't mind, give us a rundown of who you are and how they get hold of you.
Yes, sir. Joey Matthews, NMLS 1230694. I am a real estate mortgage guy, so you won't find me in a domestic violence mortgage.
We got a new trigger.
So, can we not have that as a trigger?
Yeah.
Whoops.
We're having a good time. So you can find me at 630-235-2405. Look on the internet on anything is the VA Loan Nerd, or at my website at thevaloannerd.com.
Now, Joey, there's a whole lot going on in this country and around the world, and don't get me wrong, I could go on and on about that stuff. But we're here to talk about real estate. How is that? How is everything that's going on in the world focusing our mortgage rates and our real estate market, or is it?
Well, we're in a globalized economy. We have been for a while. So Germany had some strong economic data get released this morning. So we saw bonds go a little bit tick up. 10-year Treasury note went up trading up to 4.9 as of before MSNBC went to a commercial, which is what I'm watching right now. It was trading at a 4.85% yield yesterday, so it went up. We have pretty light economic data from the beginning of this week. Today, Jerome Powell.
I know he's your favorite person. Hey, Joey,
Yeah.
don't play poker. All right, because that sigh really is a good tell, just so you know.
Yeah, so if you're locking in, I would suggest lock in this morning before 3 p.m. Central Time, and today is Wednesday, October 25th, 3 p.m. Central Time, because that's when he's going to take the mic and ruin my life. Outside of that, we have a jobs report coming in, and I believe PCE is tomorrow. Personal consumption expenditures is tomorrow. So
I like
we have some things. Yeah, I like to make up words as I fly when I can't think of what the hell I'm saying. Which HE double hockey sticks is allowed. So yeah, that's what's going on the rest of the week. I've seen some things about the workers' advance release notice data coming in really hot over the last couple of weeks that should reflect into higher unemployment over the next couple of weeks. So we might see some improvement, but that is assuming that the jobs market is as inflated as it looks to me. So
what does all that mean to me? I'm kind of a naive.
What does that mean to you? I would suggest locking ASAP if you happen to be in a contract as of this morning or last night. And then after this week, after we see jobs data, deciding on whether it's time to start floating again or not. And when I say floating, I mean if you're under contract, locking in a rate.
So I've been on this earth 39 years. All right,
Yeah.
And yes, I do lie about my age every single day.
He spent his first 20
Right.
years on Mars, which is, a lot of people don't know that. And, so yes, Earth, yes,
it is
39.
true. So I guess the point is I've seen mortgage rates, and I've had a mortgage rate that was 18%. I've seen them down to 2%. And everybody goes, oh my God, they're skyrocketing or this and that. What would we want to be normal, I guess? What would be the average? Patrick held up 5 hands, and don't be afraid to chime in.
5 fingers, so 5 hands would
5
be
fingers,
really.
that's
I
right.
agree.
I'd be like one of those Indian gods.
But Joey,
It
you're
sounds
my
like everyone's on the same
expert.
page as me.
You're-
I mean, 5s, and then every once in a while you see dips into the 4s, but outside of that, I think 5 is a pretty normal rate market.
Okay.
Where the Treasury is right now, the 10-year yield, we're a little bit inflated on the MBS side. We're usually tracking within 2 points. And so when the yield is at 5, you would expect the rates to be around 7. So a 2-point difference. I know we talked about that last week, but of late, we've seen a wider gap created between the mortgage-backed security market and the yield market. So we're seeing closer to a 3-point gap. So when it's at 5, rates are at 8 rather than being at 7. That is going to close. It's a matter of time. It's a matter of less volatility. Unfortunately, we just have to get through this really super weird economy. It's
That makes
unprecedented to have oh my God, we have an inverted yield curve right now.
That's
yeah.
good.
So, but it's been there for a year, right? Inverted yield curves are usually the biggest indicator of an oncoming recession, but we've been in this situation for a year and we haven't gone into a recession yet. So it's just super weird time, unprecedented time in the markets.
So
but here we are.
Can we unpack that for just a moment? Because I know what a yield curve is.
I don't.
Yep.
But I feel like we're going to be in the very small minority of people. So
Yeah.
which treasury are we talking about, and what is an inverted yield curve? Because my understanding is that every time we've had an inverted yield curve for a specific period of time on a specific treasury, that every time has happened and then was followed by a recession.
Yeah, well, that's always been the case, right? So typically, when you're buying into longer-term treasuries, you're going to expect a larger yield of return, right?
Like a 10-year versus a 1-year.
Yeah, or a 2-year, right? Usually, we look at the 2-year or the 10-year.
Sure.
So what's been going on over the last year or so is that the 2-year is actually yielding a higher return than the 10-year,
Which is weird.
Exactly, it's weird. It's weird. You're getting a larger return on a shorter maturity date, right?
Not supposed to be like that.
It's not supposed to be like that, and that is usually a sign that a recession is inbound, because it's showing that there is more faith in the short-term economy than there is in the long-term economy. Otherwise, your long-term yields would be yielding higher than the short-term yields. So
people are stashing money in bonds, and the more people that do that, no, I'm getting it wrong. Sorry. Joey, go ahead. Let's not go down a path that was completely wrong.
I think we're getting super heavy on this, right? At the end of the day, we have an inverted yield curve. We've been in this curve for about a year, and we haven't dipped into a recession yet. A big piece is because the jobs market has been, at least reflecting, is very strong. I still smell a rat. I'm not going to go into my anecdotal evidence because anecdotes mean nothing.
Well,
but
that's true, Joey. But I'm in the same boat as you. Like, I see the numbers, but here on the mean streets, it's different. There might be a lot of retail jobs, for example, and I don't want this to sound like I'm diminishing a retail job or whatever, but the labor market it doesn't just it's not malleable in the sense that you can just take whatever labor is available and stick it where the jobs are. I'm a lawyer. I'm not, if things are slow, I'm not going to go over to Home Depot and fill out an application, even though there's an available job there. And I think there's a lot of people in that position where it's like, yes, there's jobs available, but they're not necessarily the ones that that the labor available is equipped to fill.
I'm going to switch over and get Tiffany's input on this too. Well, no, I value this. You've been in the business for a while. You're passionate about it. Mm-hmm. And one of the things when I was doing my research on you is a key word of mine, which is expectations.
Yeah.
So with everything that's going on with the mortgages and the lack of inventory that I think is changing. I did see a whole bunch of for sale signs on my way here.
Well,
but tell me how you feel about all this.
Well, you also have to look at the time of the market as well. We
Good
have
point.
two different markets in the city. We have the spring, summer, we have the fall market. Spring, summer, more inventory, more competition. In the fall, winter, we have, normally I would say less inventory, and but there's less competition, which is great for people who are looking around now. Homes do tend to sit a little bit more around this time. Your buyer pool is bigger in the spring, so you're going to have the multiple offers, things are going to move quick, whereas the buyers that are looking now are more cautious. They are being pickier, they're dragging their feet, and so yes, if you're seeing some more for sale signs, some things are sitting a little bit.
And why do you think that is? Is it because they feel empowered or they have more leverage? Because I don't really see my clients as having a lot of leverage in negotiating right now.
Oh,
correct me if I'm wrong.
Definitely more leverage at this point.
There is.
If a home has been sitting on the market for more than 2 weeks, it's negotiable at this point, right? Okay. And if you're looking at buying right now, well, there's not as many buyers looking right now. So you're more likely to get a deal. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get tens of thousands of dollars off at home. You might. But what it means is you'll probably pay at or under list price, and you have more room to ask for credit.
I haven't heard that in 2 years.
I do feel like just my experience right now is the market is a little bit softer than, let's say, it was in May.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a little bit softer, and so like I mentioned, some buyers are kind of dragging their feet now, and some of them have this grass is greener mentality. They're not really looking at the treasures that are available right now. Some homes are sitting and they're like, why are they sitting? There could be something wrong with the home, or maybe they're priced incorrectly. If something's priced too high, and buyers know, buyers are savvy, they're going to sit and they're going to wait. And the more a home sits in the market, people are thinking, well, homes have been going by so quickly. What's wrong with this home? I don't know. I think I'm going to sit and wait on it.
Yeah, if you don't price it right, you really you're shooting yourself in the foot. You think you're going to get 10 grand more, and you actually get 20 grand less.
If your neighbor sold in April and was able to get multiple offers and 20K over ask, well, you're not going to have that experience right now.
Probably not.
Is there a formula for that? I mean, how do you price a house if you're listing it? What is pricing right?
Pricing right is, we run the comps. We look at the comparables that sold within the past year or so and look at what the market value says. And I like to price right at market value. If you want to really generate more multiple offers, maybe go in slightly below that. I do have sellers that want to push for that higher number. And, if it's not a ridiculous amount more, I'll say, listen, I'm going to represent you. You're adamant on this. We'll price at this number. However, if we had no movement within the first week or two, if we're having a lot of people come in, but we're getting no offers, that's saying we're priced too high, and we need to consider a price drop by this point.
Now, I've seen it also as the other way around. In fact, when I sold one of my last houses, the first agent that I interviewed, was, oh, you can get this amount. And I'm looking, I'm like, that's really outrageously high.
Yeah.
You know, and I really felt like I was being bamboozled. Does that get a malarkey flag bamboozled? It does. Yeah, me. Okay.
Yeah, you're going to have agents out there that are just going to try to win the deal, and they'll be a yes man for the sellers and tell them what they want to hear. I'm a realist, and if I'm saying this is what your house is going to be priced at, and if you want to be priced for more, and I'm pushing back on that, who wouldn't want to get more money? But you want your house to sell, and I am trying to strategize the best way to get you top dollar.
Do you warn them about mortgages and stuff?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're look at the rates now compared to where they were.
I guess
in
I'm
May.
talking about maybe I should have said appraisals instead. You know, like what happens if somebody does agree to pay for something that's $50,000 over?
Well, if we're in a multiple offer situation, what's been really big the last couple of years are appraisal gaps, appraisal waivers. So if we're in a multiple offer situation, I will push for that for my seller. So we have one
Can
less
you go into detail
risk.
what that means?
So if a buyer is saying, I'm willing to pay $50K over list price,
Okay.
you know, we're happy to take that. But if it doesn't appraise, we want the waiver or a gap where you're saying, I will pay up to X amount. If it doesn't appraise, I will pay this much more, or I will cover it in its entirety so we can close the deal and get it done.
Yeah, what the contract says is something along the lines of, you know, I'm going to, my purchase is contingent upon obtaining a mortgage of some percentage of the purchase price. So if it's 80% of the purchase price, let's just use some round numbers. If I'm buying a house for $100,000, and yes, I know, not realistic, or you know, I'm probably buying a
Maybe back in 1988,
Parking
that's when I bought
Yeah.
for my first house. You know?
But if I'm saying I'm going to get an 80% loan to value, then when the appraisal comes in, if the appraisal is at 100,000, I'm good. If the appraisal comes in at 80,000, I can only borrow 80% of that 80,000. I'm going to want the seller to come down from the 100,000 that we agreed to the 80,000, and that's the situation you're trying to avoid with an appraisal gap waiver. So let's say instead I've offered 140,000, which is, you know, well above what the asking price is and where they priced it at in terms of what they thought the market was. If I make that same offer, they're going to want me to base that 80% on the market value, meaning this isn't going to be contingent upon you getting a mortgage at 80% of 140. It's going to be contingent upon you getting 80% of 100. And if there's a difference, if the appraisal does come in at that 100, then you're going to come out of pocket because you can only borrow that 80K to fund the $140,000 purchase, as opposed to whatever 80%. I should use just another round number.
Yeah, easier.
But you know, so it's risky if you don't have it. if you're just banking on the appraisal coming in, it's a big risk, because if it comes, you know, if you have to come out of pocket, you're gonna have to talk to Joey about how to figure out you know, the solution to the problem. But it does make things more attractive for a seller, because that appraisal is definitely something that the seller is going to have some sleepless nights about, waiting to see that they're actually going to get what they intended to get out of the purchase.
Yeah, and the seller is looking for a buyer that has the least amount of risk. And if you're willing to waive some of these risk points for them, you're going to be a stronger buyer in their mind.
Yeah,
Nice.
like you hear about people accepting lower offers, but it's cash, right? So you take that whole, you know, sorry, Joe, you're not involved because it's cash, unless it's Joey's cash, you know.
Well, no,
Let's
I'd
go to the
like to
bank of
find
Joey.
out how that conversation goes with Joey. You know, when you are overvalued and it doesn't appraise out. I mean, where does all that go? Does that go between you and the real estate agent? Is that a private conversation between you and the client?
Or is it a VA loan?
Or is
Where
it
we-
VA
You
loan
just
where you
mean
can
in
redo
general
it?
with the appraisal gap waivers?
Yeah, what happens when
How
you
do
know
you-
when you have that appraisal come in low and you've got to work some magic? I mean, do you have any levers to pull to help a buyer in that situation where the seller is not going to reduce the price?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the biggest thing whenever you're offering an appraisal gap waiver as a lender is, doing the pre-approval, assuming the appraisal gap, right? So, and the reason that people often talk about VA loans being, weaker when you don't have any money down is because if you're throwing 20% down, 30% down, if you are offering an appraisal gap, all you're doing is adjusting your loan to value ratio. You're basing the loan off of the appraised value and the loan amount. So it can completely negate anything. All it changes is your loan to value ratio. So if you offered 250, appraisal came in at 200, and you offered that $50,000 gap, right? And your loan was based on putting 100K down, you're still safe, right? Because your loan is 150, your value is at 200, so you're still over 80% LTV, loan to value. On the VA side, I know there's a misconception that you can't do appraisal gaps, and you can, because if you offer it in the contract, the VA would expect you to honor that contract. The important piece here is that a realtor would want to make sure to talk to the lender, like, hey, can they actually cover this gap? And if the answer is yes, then, freaking rock on, let's go. But you don't have recourse to renegotiate your appraisal if it comes in low, if it's within the gap.
Just so you know.
It doesn't take
What's
much.
that?
I said you got Tiffany giggling over here.
But
She liked how you
It's
phrased
this one
it.
over here.
that F word was you navigated out of a potential problem. So
Financial.
well done.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even know what I said. I'm going to blame my time in the Marines because I've been using freaking my entire last 20 years.
There you go.
I'm assuming that's what I used.
You
Do
did.
you end it with a hoorah after every show?
Oh, man,
he
there's a
should.
lot of things I end it with.
So I guess then, since I'm a Battlestar Galactica fan, I
Oh,
could
dear.
go fracking, and that would probably be okay. I don't know. I'm looking at the producer to see if I'm getting yelled at. He gave me it's a good.
Devin's looking at us like really, really
I
close.
know, you
like,
guys are
like,
being dumb.
We're just toying with
Let's
him.
get back to work here. I'm going to focus a little
Do
bit.
we have to?
Tiffany, how do those conversations go on your end? When you're bidding, how do you prepare, or again, going back to that expectations with the client and the broker? How do you? And I'm talking about the mortgage broker, Joey. How do we go ahead and get all that cleared out so that expectations can actually be met?
It all starts in the beginning. You have to have that sit down with either your buyer or your seller, and you have to shed light on the unknown. You have to talk about everything. There's so many times I get a new client, they go, hi, I want to buy, here's what I'm looking for. I say, great, but we're sitting down. I need you to understand what you're getting into. You want to buy? Welcome to the fray. Let's sit and talk about, what does it look like looking for a home in this market versus in this market? What does it really look like when we're going into these homes? We're going to make an offer. Okay, what it's like writing an offer if it's been on the market for a while versus if we're in a multiple offer situations. Here's these different ways to make a strong offer. I don't want to put you in that position when we're in a multiple offer situation and I mention as is and you go, whoa, I don't want to buy a house as is. Where are you coming from? I want to explain everything to them in the beginning so that they're aware of how we're going to proceed with whatever the situation is.
Are you
I want
okay
them-
explaining some of that to me now? Let's say I'm your client and I want to know what you mean by, I have to go ahead and put an as is if I want to be a buyer. What would you tell me?
I would say it's basically a gentleman's agreement. You still get to have an inspection for your own peace of mind.
Okay.
Basically, you're saying, seller, I'm not going to nickel and dime you for every little thing like GFCI outlets.
And then you do anyway. But
And you do anyway. But, if there's big ticket items, for instance, if there's a gas leak, well, I'm sure the seller doesn't want the house to explode, so we will have that fixed. If there's an active leak, asking them to simply fix that should be fine,
yeah, that's normal.
But we just can't, nickel and dime them for all the small stuff.
This is super important what Tiffany's talking about here, because I did a deep dive into what is really going on with these lawsuits against NAR. And one thing that triggered me a little bit when I was reading one of the articles, actually it was on the law firm who's representing the plaintiff's website, was they talk about the fact that now that all the listed homes are available to be seen by the general public on, on Redfin's website, that the role of the buyer's broker is diminished. And I'm just like, yo, okay, what Tiffany just described, if you are just going to, on your own, without a professional like Tiffany, guiding you and advising you, especially in that competitive market that we were experiencing earlier this year. You will never buy a house. You won't understand what as is means. You won't understand about appraisals, appraisal gap waiver. You won't know about any of this stuff. And when I read online about how people talk about, well, they don't earn their keep, or that's just, it's such a misconception that's out there. And I'm getting.
We just opened doors.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is my biggest pet peeve.
And look, part of the problem is that is what some agents do. Okay.
Yeah, there is.
And if
some of it is true, but people are different.
The good ones, okay, I can tell from the way Tiffany is describing her role in the transaction that she knows what she's talking about. She knows what she's doing. If you have her with you, you are far, far more likely to be able to win in a multiple offer situation. You're going to be getting the advice you need, even if there's not multiple offers. Okay, so Tiffany's going to talk to you about, all right, so the market has shifted a little bit, and here's what you need to know. As a layperson, you don't have the time, energy, or resources to learn about this stuff on your own to be as well prepared as someone who has Tiffany with them. Sorry, I went on a little bit of a rant, but
no, but I think that's all important. But Patrick, if somebody does have questions about expectations and being prepared to buy a house, how do they get hold of you?
Well, don't call me. That sounds so bad. No, the reason you don't call me is because when random numbers come up, I just let my answering service answer, and then
It's a shame with all these robocalls that we have to do that with our cell phones.
I tell you, and that's the thing about it. So I am far more accessible if you follow me on social media, which you can do that on Instagram, Loftus_law, LOF like Frank, T like Tom, US like Sam _law. That's Instagram. On TikTok at Loftus Law.
And if you're not following him on TikTok, follow him.
Seriously.
Because honestly, he just cracks me up every time I watch those videos. And so I'm laughing, and I'm always picking up a tidbit on every single one.
I have one follower. His name's Charlie.
That's
it.
I'm going to get my Bernie on there too, my father-in-law. So he's our number one fan.
Every time.
Yeah, you're going to get two in real soon. Joey, how do they get hold of you if they got questions?
Well, you can call or text me at 630-235-2405. My answering service is a voicemail. And if you want to find me at thevaloannerd.com, feel free, or across all the social medias as at the VA Loan Nerd.
And you're another one that's been starting up with a whole bunch of videos.
This guy's an influencer.
You're turning into.
I went viral.
You did go viral. What was that about?
Skillbridge, man. The one video where I was like, this is stupid. This isn't going to go anywhere. And then it went somewhere.
It's
Some
always
active
the
duty Marine
case.
picked it up and it went everywhere.
Isn't that amazing?
You just never. It's so. You'll put something out there, and I do content just about every day, and as I go on it, I get a little bit of a better sense of what is going to be interesting or popular, but at the same time, I'm frequently and pleasantly surprised at some of the stuff that I'm just like, well, I'll just kick that out there today because I don't have a lot of time, and all of a sudden it's got 2,000 views on Instagram, which is a lot for Instagram, not for TikTok, but I'm just like, oh, cool, all right, so make a little note, I should probably be doing a spreadsheet, be like, this is, but yeah, Joe, what you're saying, if it's between putting it out there and not putting it out there, just put it out there. Unless you're doing a racism or something that you shouldn't.
Oh my goodness.
You shouldn't be doing.
Maybe throw it to a friend first and be like, should I edit anything out?
Don't do a racism. I'm just saying.
That would not be good. Tiffany, when we started advertising for this show, an ex-Redfin agent, Ryan McCain, well, I really like him, all right?
He's my buddy.
Yeah,
I could tell.
Good dude.
Because he was like, oh my God, I love it. He just kept kicking all the numbers on there. And not saying he doesn't always like and watch what we do, but I could see he values you quite a bit. That means a lot to me. How do people get hold of you again if they have questions on real estate?
Well, I'm on the socials at Tiffany Sells Chicago, Tiffany with an E. My email is tiffany.meyers@redfin.com, and my phone number is 815-326-0123. And text is always a good way to get a hold of me. A lot of people will call and not leave voicemails, even if it's legit. So
I don't.
Leave a voicemail.
Do
or
you?
text me.
Yeah, I'm not. I've given up on voicemails.
Yeah,
if
I
I go
stopped
to
leaving 'em.
voicemail, then I just click on back on there and I leave a text.
That's
Yeah,
what I do.
That honestly, sometimes it takes me a while to get to the voicemail. And if you need something immediately, text is always the
You can
best
do
way
a
to go
quick
about it.
scan and see what the message is, I figure. And if they
And
want to
then-
talk to me, they can talk to me.
Yeah, and then you can unmark it. So if you're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is important, I can't get to it now, I can get to it later.
How do you do that? Well, never mind. We'll talk about how to
We'll
work an
go over your
iPhone
phone
in a
later,
little
Charlie.
bit. Exactly. Boomers. That would be me.
Charlie's got the consumer cellular, the jitterbug. That's just,
Oh my God, the numbers are so big. I love it so much. My name is Charlie Belfontaine. I own Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Our phone number is 312-544-9180. Repeating, 312-544-9180. I also own Home Inspection University if you're interested in learning more about how to inspect houses. And I really don't care if you're a real estate agent or a home inspector or a future home inspector. Knowing about what the home inspectors are going to find, I think, is extremely valuable, and we offer a lot of that for free. That is HIUIL.com. So if anybody's interested in learning more about building sciences, please visit that, and we could.
Honestly, if you own a home,
Why not?
The fact that I, meet with you weekly and that I see inspection reports, I have a much better sense of what I'm looking at when I'm looking at my home. So whereas someone might be out on their deck and be completely oblivious that it's not connected to their home at all and it's going to collapse any day now.
Deal killer.
Well,
you're a deal killer
You
now.
know, this is always
I'm
something
gonna be
I've
a name
wanted
color.
to do, and maybe it should be a podcast, is have a podcast with how do you take care of your home. A lot of people don't know anything.
No.
So-
Even as simple as changing a filter and why.
Yeah, there's this guy I follow on Instagram. I love him. He's the dad for everybody, and he's like, if you want to know how to change your filter, this is how you do it. If you want to know how to, stop a leaky faucet, this is how you do it. But I feel like it should be a requirement after you buy a house. Take a class to learn just the basic things on the upkeep of your home, because it's
Serious.
a huge responsibility. Most of these people, whether you're in a condo, you're in there for 5 to 7 years, even if you're in your forever home, well, that's after you've lived your life there. You're in there for 10, 20, 30 years. You still have to think of it as an investment, and you need to take care of your investment.
Yeah, and just to maintain its safety at the very least. There's a building inspector I follow on TikTok that Charlie absolutely adores, and this
You're
guy's
gonna try and
great.
trigger me.
Love him. I'm not gonna say his name.
No, but he gives out
'cause
good tape measures. You know?
It's a big bag of nope. Whatever the heck he says.
Unbelievable. No. Thank you for mentioning that about taking care of your home. And I think that's a fantastic idea, even if it's just like a follow-up video. And some people might, most people probably aren't going to be interested because they don't realize the value behind it. But it's simple things like you got a frost-free spigot and winter's coming. We're in a cold climate here,
Take the
Granted,
hose off.
thank you. It's simple things
Simple
like
enough.
that, but if you don't, then you end up busting a pipe because water's going to be sitting in there, and now you got a $500 to $1,000 repair.
Well, and
if you're hiring a professional
Or
to do it,
simply have an HVAC technician in every.
changing
fall
your
and
filter.
spring,
People don't
make sure
realize a
everything's working.
simple air filter changing. I cannot stress that enough.
even the words freeze-proof hose bib, you've just lost 98% of the population.
They
So
changed the station already.
what a freeze-proof hose bib is you got that spigot on the outside of your house, and when you turn it, a freeze-proof has the gate inside the house. So the last, 12 inches of it, you'll know it's freeze-proof because when you turn it off, you get a little bit more water that comes out. Don't crank down on that thing. You'll ruin the washer, and it'll drip, okay?
Wow.
This is...
I'm going to give you a side job.
This is something that we had to explain.
Passionate
So
about
back in the old days when I worked for a builder, part of our final walkthrough was explaining to people what these freeze-proof hose bibs were about, because you would frequently get people, because they were newer, this was in the 90s, they would understand that water, that little bit of water is supposed to continue to come out because the gate is inside the house so that it's not going to have that potential to freeze. So they crank down on it, and then when we have to do the 1-year warranty, we got to replace the hose bib because we're nice and we're not going to tell them that was your fault, and then they're never going to send someone to buy a house from us, because that's a huge way that builders sell more houses, is when they build a nice house and then someone tells their friend, hey, you should buy one of these houses. So yeah, that's why I have a particular expertise on the freeze-proof hose bib.
All right, I'm going to test you all then. How do you recognize a frost-free spigot as opposed to a standard spigot, just by looking at it? How do you
Oh.
recognize them? This goes
That
to
I
all
don't
three
know.
of you.
That I don't know.
All right, Tiffany, any
I
idea?
stay in my lane.
I stay in lane. Joey?
What kind of mortgage are you working on?
Yeah. All right, here's
That
the
is
answer.
the lane he's staying in.
If the handle for the spigot is up on top, it's not frost free. It has to be perpendicular or parallel to the wall,
Makes
or
sense.
perpendicular to the pipe, because you need that straight pipe going back in, that 12 to 18 inches.
That's
See?
why I love this industry. You learn
That's
something
what's
new
up.
every day.
That's one of the reasons every Wednesday morning I drag myself to breakfast with Charlie Bellefontaine, because I learned something, and I'm a better real estate lawyer for it.
You just like to drink those colorful drinks every morning, those energy drinks.
Well, it is healthy. I'm a big proponent of drinking from the hose, to be honest.
I was raised that way.
I'm a kid who grew up in the 80s and 90s, and we would absolutely drink from the hose. And I don't know how much lead poisoning I've received as a result, but I haven't had too much brain damage.
There's
I
no
used to
lead
be doing
poisoning
fine.
in rubber. What are you talking
I
about?
don't know.
And I drank from the fire hose.
Brain eating
That hurts.
amoeba.
As
Those
long
fire
as you weren't
hoses.
chewing on the windowsills, I think you're fine.
Guilty. I know. I think I did do that. I'm not too sure. That would explain a whole lot about me if
Those
I did.
fire hoses are no joke. If you've never held a fire hose, let me tell you, you've got to literally lean 45 degrees forward just to compensate from how much water's coming out of that hose.
Yeah.
We used to use them.
150 psi.
We used to use them on the job site to. I'm taking this. I always do this.
Run it.
I used to use them on the job site to clean down. If you got particularly dusty roads, like in the summertime or something, you need to wet them down, because you get homeowners and neighbors complaining about all the dust. But I remember the first time, 14-year-old me. All these guys on the job site. I'm the boss's kid, so they're definitely not gonna. Whatever frustration they have about my dad is coming out on me.
I love it.
Which was, it's a great way to grow up. No trauma whatsoever. But yeah, they're like, hey kid, get over there and use that hose. And, they're not going to give me any instruction. They just want to watch me tumble backwards,
Oh, absolutely.
20 feet, and
Purely
I
for
did.
entertainment.
And but you figure it out. So Joey and Charlie here, they wouldn't really have any experience with a fire hose, I don't think.
No, 37 years for me, and I don't know how many for Joey, but I know there was
10.
a lot. 10?
Every day's a
Yeah.
new day. Go to the local fire department. They're usually bored. You could
Yeah,
have a
they're out
2.5-year-old
front
to
playing
let your
checkers
kid
and
wander
eating
and
pies.
check all
What do
that
you
out.
mean? They're doing their job.
Yeah,
for me.
they're grilling up meat. It's
They're
just
making chili.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
just a party.
Darn
every
right we
day.
are.
Almost all my clients that are firefighters, they tell me they're a firefighter. I'm like, oh, what else are you? Because they're also inspectors,
Very
they work in
good.
construction.
Very
they have
good.
all the
Mortgage
time to
guys.
study, do something
Mortgage
else.
guys, yeah. Electricians, plumbers, you name it. They're a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But
Very
again, we
well.
get sidetracked, Patrick. I'm giving you I'm looking over the top of the glasses at you.
Bombastic side eye.
Right.
I don't feel bad at all. So
I love it. So let's go back to expectations, Tiffany. And one of my favorite questions is always going to be like Zig Ziglar. I really like this guy. And it's the why. Why do we do what we do? And that's like one of the hardest questions to answer. Why would I want to work with you? And just to be fair to everybody listening, Tiffany goes, you're not going to hit me with any gotcha questions, are you?
yeah.
And what did I just do?
What's
do
your
a gotcha at
USP
you.
right now?
Got me.
Yeah,
Come on.
I absolutely love working with people. I'm passionate about it.
I could tell. Yeah, I could tell in your
and-
writings.
Yes, and when we were chit-chatting, I didn't tell you the story. I had a bad realtor when I came to the city. Granted, I was looking at leasing. But this gentleman barely, I gave him what I wanted to look for. Didn't even listen to me. Showed me all the places that I didn't want. And
That's a huge pet peeve of
he
mine.
kept giving opinions, and I'm like, give me facts. And one time, I don't think the people were totally moved out, and we found some dumbbells in the sink. He's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna take these."
No way.
Uh,
That's a quick way to get your license gone, if not throwing you in jail.
And
I got accused of theft for taking a sample of vermiculite in an attic, and somebody wanted to throw me in jail for that.
yeah.
But dumbbells in a sink, I think I'd leave that.
I'm like, leave the dumbbells. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? And then I had an appointment with him, and then I had an appointment with somebody else. This is when I was first moving to the city. I didn't know what I was doing. So another realtor was showing me some places, and she showed me the same place as well. I'm like, well, I prefer you. So I'm just going to get this through you. He ends up calling me to do the follow-up. He's like, do you want that place? I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I also didn't understand how commission worked as well, because he didn't inform me how everything worked.
Do you?
And,
do you inform your clients how commission works?
absolutely.
When do you do that?
When we do the sit-down.
Yeah.
And the sit-down's right off the bat, before you show the first house?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that was
maybe I'll show him a house, because
Okay.
sometimes I want to show him my value. You know, I'm not just going in there and saying,
Sign
this is absolutely beautiful. I'll be pointing out things to consider. You know, this furnace looks to be a little on the older side. You know, just because it's old doesn't mean it's not working, but you may have to replace it. It's going to cost anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000, depending on the model, what you're looking for. You know, to show them
nice
my
furnace.
value. You know,
It's a real nice furnace.
And they're
or
gonna
maybe
be-
they're getting air conditioning with it as well. We're going to lower that price a tad.
Okay.
All right.
Tiffany shows
Sure.
some nice houses, man. I know I just replaced a furnace a couple of years ago. I think I paid, well, I replaced everything in that house. But I paid like $2,500. It's a 1,100 square foot townhome. It's
Guys,
It's a small
inflation
unit.
was the last time.
this is 2021. I mean, it doesn't.
It's gone up, but you know,
Yeah.
I digress.
I got a guy.
So-
I'll
I got a guy.
I'll give you my guy.
I got a guy.
I want to
so,
hear more about that, though. You're opening in. We've always believed this is about building relationships.
Yes.
I always believe that, you know, you're giving somebody the why choose me. You're saying this is about selling yourself, not selling a house.
Right.
All right.
Showing your value.
Getting the trust. All right, and that's not BS. You know,
Right.
you have to literally give somebody your commitment in order to get that trust. And if you violate that commitment, you violate that trust, and they're gone
Yes.
forever. I believe that in my heart.
Exactly.
You do too. Good. So how does that conversation go then? When does it happen? And tell me how it goes, please.
So typically I'll meet them for the first tour, show them my value, and build that rapport too, and they feel more comfortable sitting with me after that. Because when I'm first talking to them on the phone, I'm like, you know, work with me, let's sit down. And they're really skittish at first, so I try
Yeah.
to
They don't
open
know
up
you.
the conversation. I don't know you, so
And I think
let me
it's.
show you what I have to bring to the table.
I think it may be worth bringing up how Redfin's sales funnel works, because usually what they'll do is they'll see a house they like, they'll click, yeah, I want to see it, and that's how someone like Tiffany would get connected to them. So it's very much like, you know, who is this person?
Right.
You know, it's a very cold approach. So you know that building of the rapport is, I think, probably something that, you know, maybe is much more important as opposed to if you're working from like referrals from somebody that you previously worked with. That's probably
Yeah.
a different situation when you do have that.
Yeah, and I try to make that initial call with them to just be like easy breezy and easy, you know, just real quick, just want to touch base. You know, when you schedule a tour through with Redfin, you're assigned a realtor to advocate for you, and that is me. Hello. And tell me, where are you at with the home buying process right now? Tell me about you, and get them talking a little bit, set up this tour, build that rapport while there, and then do the sit down and really guide them through exactly what they're getting themselves into, and then getting them set up with next steps so we can set them up for success, get them a leg up against the competition. You know, I'm here to help, support, advocate, and guide you through all of this. I'm your number one go-to person. I'm the one steering the ship here, trying to get you to your
There's a
goal.
lot to learn about all the different fields too, isn't there? Because
Oh,
if you're
yeah.
going to share that and you want to be as accurate as you can, you got to kind of let everybody know. Patrick brought up earlier about some people have pets, you know. So to me, it's like I don't know, and maybe you just don't have the ability, but I don't know why anybody would write a contract on a condo where they don't allow pets in the building.
Oh yeah, you need to know that stuff right up front. We go through there, what's your nice to haves and your must haves, and
Okay.
always I bring up the pets. And also, what's the breed of the dog? What is the weight of the dog?
I think that, yeah, because that's in a lot of condo documents,
I
isn't
had
it?
one earlier this year. It fell apart over my client had like a 50-pound dog, and there was a 25-pound limit. And, you know, look, that's crucial to me. One of the worst calls I could ever get, and thank God I've never gotten it, is that, I had to give up my pet because, you know, we didn't carefully enough. We didn't look at the condo docs carefully enough. I would be crushed if that happened.
Yeah. People won't though. They will cancel a deal for their pets.
Yeah, we canceled it. And I got a call from the lawyer. Well, why would you write a contract in a building with a pet restriction? And I go, bro, I didn't write that contract. He's like, oh yeah, no, I think I guess you're right. Look, I'm not happy either, having gone through. I mean, basically, by the time you get through attorney review and inspection, you're 75% done with the deal. That's where most of the work takes place. I'm not happy either that I did that much work to have the thing fall apart. But it comes down to what am I supposed to tell my client? Like, put your dog on a diet. that dog ain't getting down to 25 pounds. So it doesn't work out. I had another one where there was a complete pet restriction, and I basically said, look, if you can get the board to approve my client's pet, who she's had for 10 years, and is basically her the most important person in her life. If we can't get that approved, then this deal's not moving forward. And they went and did it, and so my client was able to buy that home. So the workaround is an emotional support animal, and if you can get that approval before you sign on the dotted line, fair enough. That's not typically what happens.
It's rare.
And so you say to the client, if this is the only house or the only place that you can think to buy, and you just have to buy it, well, you were going to have to roll the dice that you're going to be able to convince the board to let you have that dog as an emotional support animal, or if you can get a doctor to write that, there's a difference between service animal and emotional support animal. An emotional support animal is not necessarily going to be, you're not going to be able to keep that animal under Americans with Disabilities Act, whereas a service animal, that would be covered. So even if I had a client with a seeing eye dog, I would say to that condo board is, unless you want to get sued, you're gonna have to be cool with this dog. I had that happen. A friend of mine, his wife, she lost her right leg above the knee in Iraq, and so she had the sweetest service animal, like in the history of service animals. I love that dog, and they bring that dog everywhere. And so we were I played hockey with her husband, and we brought the dog into the ice rink and into the bar. And one of the guys was like, well, you can't have an animal in here. I'm like, do you really want an ADA lawsuit? And he looked at me, and I don't think he exactly knew what I was talking about, but he knew I'm a lawyer. And as soon as you hear lawsuit, you go, well, no, I don't want that. So
have a nice day. Enjoy your.
Anyways,
does your pet want to drink too?
He would. He'd walk around. All the popcorn we would drop, he would just pig out on popcorn the whole time.
I love it. But again, going back to preparation, Tiffany, and what are some of the questions that you ask, and when do you go ahead and find out how much your client can actually afford? That to me is a big one. Do you take people out without being? And Joey, I murder this every time. Pre-approved or pre-qualified?
Pre-approved. Yeah,
pre-approved
absolutely.
Is the
because
right way.
They don't know where to start when it comes to being pre-approved. There's thousands of agents, there's thousands of lenders out there. Where do you go? Could we go to our bank? Sure. So I kind of sit them down and give them all the options there, and give them and I ask them, what do you feel comfortable paying for now? What is the down payment that you're thinking at the moment?
Okay.
And they like to use the Redfin's calculator to get a general, which I tell them is kind of inflated, especially when it comes to the insurance. So I said, I really guide them to, your first step is talking to a lender. They'll shed light on the unknown. What can you afford? What kind of loan program are you able to get? Is it conventional, FHA, or VA? Because that may narrow your options. This is really the first step in the whole process, and here are some great referrals.
Yeah, allowing them to understand how many options there are out there, because there are so many, and because I'm in this business, I assume people know more than they generally do, and there really is, and Joey's talked about this, and I didn't believe him. I'm sorry, Joey, about the old notion that you have to have 20% down to buy a house, which that is most of the transactions I handle are not. They're not putting down 20%. They're putting down 5%, 10% maybe. or if they're doing FHA, it'll be 3.5%. But to the tens of people who are listening out there, if you've not consulted, if you've not talked to somebody about what this process is, what the options are for a loan, what is the comparison for a similar type of home that you're renting? What would it cost you to own something similar? I think even if you are ultimately going to say, I'm going to stay a renter, having that knowledge and understanding, at least of like the opening, bits and pieces of it, is going to put you in a much better position to make the decision to understand whether or not renting or owning makes more sense for you.
Exactly. And that's basically what that conversation is about. Are you ready to proceed? And I've had plenty of people I sat down with that realized, you know what, we didn't realize there were closing costs. That's quite a bit. And we want to take our time to save money, or maybe we want to take our time to work on our credit so we're in a better position. And then a year or two later, they call me later down the line because they loved sitting down with me, and I was very informative. And
or
you were
we're
up front. You did the right thing at the right time for the right reason.
Or
Right.
we're waiting on rates to go down.
Joey, we are running short on time, but and you know me, I always like to ask the big question right away.
Yeah, ask a 20-minute question.
With 3 minutes left to go. So how do you prepare people? How do you tell somebody, okay, this is the maximum price house in this condition that you're going to look at? And I know the answer is numbers, but give me more of a detail. And one more thing, I want you to throw in a plug and tell me what the PMI is for veteran loans.
Oh, it's 0.
Thank you.
No, so I prepare them. I tell them I'm never going to give you a max pre-approval because I don't want you to hate me next year. What I do tell them is give me the number that you want to be around for a monthly payment. I will give you an estimate based on where you're looking. And if you're putting an offer on a place, reach out to me so I can update your pre-approval so you can see in real time what that would look like. I let them know what their cash to close looks like so they're not freaking out, right? When they're like, oh, closing costs, right? Mm-hmm. Because I'm assuming, obviously, our seller credit, the tax proration credits that the seller's going to owe in Illinois, the cost of setting up escrow, the closing cost estimate. I always go high on title fees because I never want to tell someone a super low number and then like, hey, this is $2,000 more than I expect. I'm like, whatever. So I give them a worst case scenario, and if they're happy with the worst case, then we roll.
Nice. And how does that work with you? I mean, I'm getting Tiffany as you. Tiffany, I'm getting, getting this information to your client as early as possible so their expectations can not only be met but exceeded. Mm-hmm. And yes, I stole that from my old fire chief. I'm going to give an attaboy to Jay Reardon. Consistently exceed your customers' expectations. Something I learned from that man, and I love it. Mm-hmm. But we are running out of time. So I'm not going to let you answer that question.
Okay.
But I am going to ask that you go ahead and give us your contact information.
The hostess with the mostest.
Yes. Tiffeny Meyers with Redfin. You can find me on the socials at Tiffany Sells Chicago. Tiffany with an E. My email is tiffany.myers@redfin.com, and my cell is 815-326-0123.
And when she says Tiffany with an E, I'm going to actually spell that. It's Tiffeny. So
did you think it was Tiffany?
I'm a Tiffany.
Well, you never know. It could be
Not a
Tiffine, with a few E's at the end. Patrick, how do they get hold of you?
All right. Right there. I don't know if you can see that.
I can.
Loftus Law, Insta, Loftus. Yeah, as soon as you say go fast, Loftus_Law on Insta, at Loftus Law on TikTok.
And Joey, please, you know what to do?
The VALoanNerd.com, the VA Loan Nerd on social media.
That's nice and simple and easy. Good old neighborhood loans, I believe it is. And again, my name is Charlie Belfontaine. I own Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Our phone number is 312-544-9180. Special thank you to Devin Tingle, our producer. Again, my name is Charlie, and I